heart pounded in my chest as I stared at the Barbie doll sitting on my bedroom shelf. It had always been a normal toy, harmless and lifeless. But tonight was different. The storm outside raged, casting eerie shadows on the walls, and a strange energy seemed to emanate from that doll. I tried to shake off the feeling, attributing it to my overactive imagination, but as I climbed into bed, I couldn't help but glance back at the doll. Its plastic eyes seemed to follow me, and a sinister grin crossed its tiny lips. I closed my eyes, hoping to drift off to sleep and forget about the unsettling presence in my room. But just as I was about to doze off, I heard a faint giggle. My eyes shot open, and a cold sweat drenched my forehead. Must be my imagination, I whispered to myself, trying to reassure my trembling soul. But then, I heard the giggle again, louder this time, and it was undoubtedly coming from the Barbie. Fear crawled through my veins, paralyzing me. I wanted to run, to call for my parents, but my voice failed me. The doll's laughter grew more menacing, echoing around the room. Suddenly, it twitched, its tiny arms moving as if it were stretching after a long slumber. "No, this can't be happening," I whimpered, tears welling in my eyes. "It's just a doll, it can't be alive." But my pleas fell on deaf ears, and the doll's once lifeless eyes glowed with an unholy light. It jumped off the shelf and landed gracefully on the floor. With jerky movements, it started inching toward me. I tried to escape, but my body remained frozen with fear. The doll's smile twisted into a wicked grin, and I knew it wanted one thing: my life. My room felt like a prison, and I was trapped with a malevolent force I couldn't comprehend. As the doll drew closer, I finally found my voice and screamed for help. My parents burst into the room, but to my horror, they couldn't see the doll moving on its own. They tried to comfort me, but their reassurances fell flat, and the doll continued its advance. In a desperate bid to protect myself, I grabbed the nearest object, a heavy book, and hurled it at the doll. But the doll nimbly dodged the projectile, and the book smashed against the wall, leaving me even more defenseless. The storm outside intensified, and the thunder seemed to applaud the doll's malevolence. I knew I had to act quickly. Summoning every ounce of courage, I lunged at the doll, hoping to snatch it and throw it out the window. But the doll was faster, and with a malicious laugh, it leaped out of my grasp. I stumbled, and before I could regain my balance, it pounced on me, its tiny hands wrapping around my neck, squeezing the life out of me. I gasped for breath, feeling my vision blur, my life slipping away. In my final moments, I saw the doll standing over me, victorious in its haunting conquest. And as darkness enveloped me, I couldn't help but wonder, was it really just a doll that came to life? Or did the malevolence of this world find its way into that innocent plastic form, to torment and terrorize unsuspecting souls like me? I had always thought my childhood toys were a source of comfort and joy, but that all changed when I found myself face to face with the most chilling horror I could have ever imagined. It started innocently enough. One evening, I returned home after a long day at work. The house was silent, and a sense of unease hung in the air. As I walked into the living room, I noticed something out of place: my old stuffed teddy bear, Mr. Cuddlesworth, sitting in an armchair, its glassy eyes fixed on the front door. Confused, I dismissed it as my forgetfulness and moved to the kitchen to fix myself a late dinner. While I cooked, I heard faint, muffled sounds from the living room, like someone shuffling around. My heart quickened, and I grabbed the kitchen knife, my mind racing with fear and paranoia. With trepidation, I returned to the living room, ready to confront whatever intruder might be lurking there. But to my horror, there was no one there. Only Mr. Cuddlesworth remained, sitting in the armchair, as if nothing had happened. I scolded myself for being so jumpy and chalked it up to stress from work. After all, toys can't move on their own, right? I decided to put this strange incident out of my mind and sat down to eat my dinner. As I ate, I heard the noises again, this time more distinct. It was like someone whispering and giggling in the next room. My heart pounded, and I could feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins. With my knife still in hand, I crept towards the sound. The noises led me to my old dollhouse, tucked away in a corner. I hadn't played with it in years, and seeing it again brought back memories of happier times. But the nostalgic feelings were quickly replaced by a gut-wrenching terror. Inside the dollhouse, I saw a gruesome scene, miniature replicas of my family members, drenched in red paint, lying motionless on the floor. My breath caught in my throat as I realized the horrifying truth. The dollhouse was mirroring the crime unfolding in our home at that very moment. Panic overwhelmed me, and I raced through the house, searching for any sign of an intruder. But the doors were locked, the windows secure, there was no one else inside. My mind couldn't comprehend what was happening. Returning to the dollhouse, I saw a new figure added to the scene, a tiny representation of me, lifeless and sprawled on the floor, surrounded by the painted carnage. The dollhouse had become a malevolent conduit, foretelling the fate that awaited me. Terrified and desperate to escape this nightmare, I grabbed the dollhouse and ran outside, intending to throw it into the trash. But as I lifted it, something strange happened. The dollhouse seemed to resist, and its tiny inhabitants began to move, their limbs twitching as if they were coming to life. With trembling hands, I dropped the dollhouse and watched in horror as the figures inside started to multiply and spread across the lawn. It was as if the evil had taken physical form, and it was escaping the confines of the dollhouse. I knew I couldn't stay there any longer. I fled from my own home, leaving behind the haunted dollhouse and the sinister toys that had turned my once peaceful sanctuary into a nightmarish scene of bloodshed. As I ran, I couldn't shake the feeling that something malevolent had awakened in those toys. Whether it was a cursed object or a manifestation of my own fears, I knew one thing for certain: I would never look at childhood toys the same way again. And the horrors that played out in that house would haunt me forever.